This episode is sponsored by Alcor. Global hiring for engineering teams can be a nightmare. Too many providers, hidden fees, slow support, and local rules that don't make sense. Alcor is a different kind of EOR partner. They're built for tech companies scaling across borders with deep expertise in Eastern Europe and Latin America. Alcor combines employer of record services with tech recruiting, helping you choose the right country, find and assess engineers, and onboard them in days, not months. Nearly 85% of what you pay goes straight to your engineers. Alcor's fee decreases as your team grows, and you can always bring the team in-house with zero exit fee. That's why Silicon Valley startups, including 5 unicorns, work with Alcor. Learn more at alcor.com/podcast or tap the link in the show notes. This episode is sponsored by EquityBee. Stock options can be valuable, but exercising them often means taking on real financial risk, putting tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket with uncertainty around the outcome makes exercising a difficult decision for many startup employees. And that's where EquityBee comes in. EquityBee helps you exercise your options without using your own capital. No out-of-pocket costs. They provide non-recourse funding to cover exercise costs and taxes. There's no repayment unless the company has an exit. With EquityBee, you don't leave your equity behind. Go to codestory.co/EquityBee to learn more. See terms and conditions in the sponsors section of the episode page. That's codestory.co/EquityBee.
When we built the company, the whole idea was we need something that can scale to the needs that we had in previous company, which was massive. We always knew from the get-go that we needed a system that can scale dynamically based on demand up and down. We need to be as stateless as we can. But at some point, we also can't afford to lose data on the ingest pipeline. Initially, we started working with another system, another component that would give us a statefulness for incoming messages to ensure that we were not dropping any data. And then for the Super Bowl, this component completely killed us. I'm David Sztykman, Chief Architect at Hydrolix.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
Took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve more.
Most proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time.
The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took
you.
it off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story. I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how David Sztykman has built real-time CDN observability so you can have analytics at the speed of insight. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, I was building my startup and went hunting for that perfect .com and found next to nothing. So I did what every founder does, settled. Here's what I wish someone had told me. You're building a tech startup, just get a .tech domain. It instantly tells investors and customers what you're about. Don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain for your startup today. David Sztykman lives in Paris, but used to live in New York for a time. He's always been into video, streaming, and photography. For the latter, as a kid, his dad had a film developing lab in their basement, so he spent many hours doing that before digital changed it all. As a student, he used to tinker with open-source video streaming libraries and eventually worked for Alkamai, responsible for the streaming media for Europe. Think the Olympics or a Super Bowl. Outside of tech, he has 2 kids, and they like to do a lot of Legos together. But in general, they are outside kids, so usually they like to get out of the house and do active things. In his prior role, David was consistently alerted about poor performance on the video streaming side. He started to dig into the data streaming portion of it to be alerted on shifts in the stream itself. After a few other opportunities, he was approached to build real-time CDN observability for distributed infrastructure. This is the creation story of Hydrolix.
Hydrolix is a streaming data platform. The principal idea of Hydrolix is there's a ton of data that exists all the time, and everything is generating data. And it's usually very expensive to be able to ingest, query, and retain that data all the time. And so most of the systems that exist right now in the market are telling you 90% of your data is garbage. Let's discard it. We took the opposite approach. We think everything is super valuable. You don't really know what's interesting about your data until you see it. And so we want to keep your data. But the trick is, how do you keep it at a cost that doesn't really affect you? And so that's where the idea of Hydrolix is, if we're able to index that data really well and compress that data really well, we can then store it into object storage. But at the same time, it means that because it's fully indexed, I'm able to retrieve those information really quickly. The novelty of Hydrolix is really the fact that we are completely stateless in the sense that we decouple completely storage from compute, and we're able to stream data into the platform, compress that data, store it into object storage, and then retrieve it when you need it. So that's really the biggest thing that we've done. The funny thing about it, like if you think Snowflake is doing something similar at the end of the day, like they decouple storage from compute, they're storing the data into object storage, it's the same principle. The big difference is we are focusing on real-time live streaming, whereas most of the vendors right now are able to support like batch of old data with that purpose, but not really do it with like millions of logs coming in at a time. And so what we build is really a streaming ingest system that allows us to do that. So funnily enough, as I mentioned, I used to work at Alkamai, and at Alkamai I used to work on live events. So typically the Olympics, the Apple keynote, the Super Bowl, those kind of horrible events when something happened, you don't really know what's going on, and your customer is calling you saying, someone is complaining about poor quality in New York City. And okay, let me pull up the log. It's going to take half an hour, but the problem is, after half an hour, the event is almost done. So like literally, you're losing visibility. At Alkamai, I started working on a data pipeline, which would allow us to get insights in real time about what's going on video streaming. So the idea was to stream Alkamai data into ourselves and to build a data pipeline and platform that would allow us to view in real time what's going on at the edge. And so we can then tell customers, okay, we're seeing bitrate shifting or rebuffering event for specific geolocation or specific cities. While I was doing that at Alkamai, I actually used Elasticsearch, which is very well known for logging system. And the problem that I had was scaling Elasticsearch was really hard because the more data coming in, the more nodes you need to add. And the problem is when the data is coming in, adding more nodes means that you need to move the shard around to keep a cluster balanced. And when you need the data the most, that's when everything slows down because rebalancing shard and rebalancing your cluster is actually an expensive process. So I worked at Elastic for a couple of years after Alkamai because I really loved the technology. It was super exciting what you could do with it. And at some point, Marty Kagan, the CEO and founder of Hydrolix, reached out to me saying, okay, I've got an idea. If we're able to ingest a terabyte of data, a petabyte of data in a stateless way and stream it into the platform, how do you feel about building it? I'm like, sure, that sounds really exciting. How would you do it? And we started talking about the fact that we needed statelessness, so we need to be able to scale up ingest and scale down ingest, scale up queries, etc. And so after he reached out to me saying, this is the idea, I'm like, I'm sold, because this actually completely fulfill all the stuff that I've been dealing with, which is painful, which is, okay, it's a stateful system. I need to add more capacity. I was tired of dealing with that. And the idea of having a full system that is fully stateless, that allows us to scale up and down all the different components dynamically, was completely like brilliant to me. And so 4 years, a little over 4 years ago, I joined Hydrolix, and at the time, it was a really tiny company. We were 11 people. The product was like just running on AWS. We were using AWS services and not running on Kubernetes. There was a lot of things that we changed over time after that. But we built the first version of that ID fully running on AWS, and it was quite exciting.
I think that's a perfect segue into my next question. So tell me about the MVP, that first version. What sort of tools were you using to bring it to life, and how long did it take?
So the first version was fully running on AWS. So we had a binary called Turbine, which is basically the tool that we use to generate partition of Hydrolix and to query Hydrolix partition. And so Turbine was a binary that was deployed in different EC2 instances. We had CloudFormation that were scaling up and down different components of the platform that we needed. We separated the product into pieces. So one was really the incoming data. The other one was merging that incoming data after the fact. And the last bit was really querying that data. And so the platform was really separated into 3 pieces: ingest, merge basically, and query after that. And all of those components were different components that were running on EC2. We had something called CloudFormation, which allowed us to deploy a Hydrolix cluster and then manage the different scale of that cluster. So the scale was not really dynamic. We were calculating, a customer was telling us, okay, I'm going to ingest a terabyte a day of data. So we were calculating, we know that a single ingest node is able to take 10 megabits a second per core. So we need this amount of core. And we were pre-calculating the different scale that we needed. So it was not as dynamic as we wanted, but the idea was, can we make something that works, that's efficient, that is able to ingest data in real time at really high scale, store that data in S3, and retrieve it with really great performance? That was really like, can we build it? And that was what we built, what we've delivered. And so the idea was really, let's try with a couple of very large data set and customer to stream millions and millions of data points to us, and then see if we can query that data efficiently. And if I add more capacity, is the query performance improving? So if I have 1 query peer, for example, a query might take a minute. If I have 10 query peer, maybe it's going to take 2 seconds, etc. And so the idea was to really check that we could scale based on CPU, based on the different metrics that we wanted, and ensure that we had the right performances that we wanted. But one of the things we quickly realized was a lot of customers wanted to run that not only on their own environment in AWS, but someone wanted to run it into a different cloud provider like GCP or someone else. And that's where it got tricky, because everything that we built out was really leveraging only AWS services. So EC2, Kinesis, a bunch of things like that. And so moving it into a full stateless platform, in a sense that like we don't rely on specific vendor-specific services, was another piece of work.
This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, Windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech Domains.
And this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain.
This episode is sponsored by Alcor. Global hiring for engineering teams can be a nightmare. Too many providers, hidden fees, slow support, and local rules that don't make sense. Alcor is a different kind of EOR partner. They're built for tech companies scaling across borders with deep expertise in Eastern Europe and Latin America. Alcor combines employer of record services with tech recruiting, helping you choose the right country, find and assess engineers, and onboard them in days, not months. Nearly 85% of what you pay goes straight to your engineers. Alcor's fee decreases as your team grows, and you can always bring the team in-house with zero exit fee. That's why Silicon Valley startups, including 5 unicorns, work with Alcor. Learn more at alcor.com/podcast or tap the link in the show notes.
So then from that point, you've got, the MVP built, you put in the work, you figured out the way you want to approach this. How did you mature and progress the product forward? And I think to wrap that in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is, how did you build your roadmap? How did you go about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Hydrolix?
So it was really by talking with our first customers. The first very large customer that we had was Paramount, and Paramount wanted to use us to monitor the Super Bowl. And Paramount didn't want to run on AWS, they wanted to run on GCP. So first thing is, okay, what do we do then? How do we migrate all the stuff that we have from AWS to GCP? And so the obvious solution was, let's build everything in Kubernetes so we can then have a Kubernetes operator that allows us to manage Hydrolix into different cloud providers. And that was, I think, probably a year worth of effort, moving out of all the different AWS services that we used, like Kinesis, EC2, etc., into Kubernetes operator that we owned. So we could then create all the different components that we needed to be able to achieve full statelessness into different cloud providers. So that was one big piece of things. The second part was when Paramount told us they wanted to use us for the Super Bowl, we were really excited. But at the same time, the amount of data they were going to collect was massive. And actually, it was massive. And funnily enough, for the Super Bowl, you don't necessarily want to view all the raw logs all the time, all right? What you want is have an aggregated view of specific data points. So you want, for example, the network throughput per ASN aggregated per minute, for example. But to calculate that, you still need to ingest all your data points. And so one of the key features that we built out for Paramount in particular was this, what we call the summary table, which allows us to pre-aggregate data as the data is flowing into the platform. Initially, we didn't have that capabilities. And when we tried to build a dashboard and report that worked for Paramount, we actually were not able to do really a great job at it, because the query performance was okay when it was a small scale, but when we were talking about millions of logs per second, then the query performance started to degrade. And so this idea of pre-aggregating the information as the data is going into Hydrolix really helped us, because instead of querying billions of data points all the time, because those data points are pre-aggregated, I just need to query a couple of data points. And that was one of the key features that allowed us to scale to Paramount needs and to be able to pre-build everything that they wanted for the Super Bowl and for different events. So I think really the key for me here is like the customer communication. Like you have to have a really key customer that you trust, that also trust you, because for them it was difficult to rely on a vendor that basically was unknown, that had a couple of customers, but for their biggest event, they actually trusted us to deliver. And so I think really building trust with a couple of really key customers is critical, because that's how you get really good feedback about how it's currently working, what they want to address later. And if what they ask is something that makes sense for multiple customers, obviously you're going to build it. If it's something that's really super specific and tailored for one customer, maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe it depends on how much revenue it is. Like it's always a struggle from that point of view.
It's a really interesting story, and you're right on with the partner. It sounds like you got a really good one and a really big one early on.
Yes, that definitely helped us for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so in that story, I hear you saying we a lot. Tell me about how you built your team. What did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
The big thing I think for me is curiosity. Like I want people to literally ask why all the time. Why do we do it this way? Why do we do it this way? Did you think about something else? Because like what we need, I think, when you're a small company and a small startup is to be challenged about the decision that you're making. And so what I was looking for was really people that were super curious and that can push back and are not afraid to push back when they think that the decision is actually not the right one. So it's difficult at some point because some people are actually not going to say pleaser, but they don't they feel like going against your idea is actually going against you, but that's not the case. Like really, I think where Hydrolix thrive is really in conflict is not the right term, but it's basically like challenging ideas. And so what we are looking for is really people that can challenge us into different ideas to figure out what is the right solution to go forward. One thing that also worked out quite well was getting people in the industry that we knew. So Hydrolix is really working a lot with media company, and having people that had media experience really helped us build the right solution and the right product, because they knew the ecosystem and they knew the pain point that most of the broadcasters were having and what is the thing that we need to build to solve it. And so to me, it was really like people that needs to be super curious, that are not afraid to challenge us on things, and that has media expertise.
This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's mezmo.com/codestory. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain. So my next question will be really interesting because it's built into the bread and butter of your experience and also what you've built at Hydrolix, I'm curious about scalability. How did you approach thinking about scalability in the beginning? And then also, have there been interesting areas where you've had to fight it as you've grown?
So scalability for us was part of our DNA. When we built the company, the whole idea was we need something that can scale to the needs that we had in previous company, which was massive amount of data. And so we always knew from the get-go that we needed a system that can scale dynamically based on demand up and down for ingest in particular and for query after the fact. So when we designed Hydrolix, the whole idea was really we need to be as stateless as we can. But at some point, we also can't afford to lose data on the ingest pipeline. And so initially, we started working with another system, another component that would give us a statefulness for incoming messages to ensure that we were not dropping any data. And we were quite happy with it initially. And then for the Super Bowl, this component completely killed us. At some point, we needed to upscale that component. And because that component is stateful, whenever we were adding capacity, we had the same problem of we need to move the shard around. We need to ensure that everything is balanced. And whenever we added extra capacity, we were losing time and losing messages and losing data. And so after the first Super Bowl that we worked on, we went back to the drawing board saying, okay, stateful services is important, but at the same time, when you need to scale to millions of logs a second, it doesn't really scale. And so we went back to the drawing board saying, okay, how do we build a buffering system that allows us to scale more components in the background without losing the incoming data, but without the need to talk to everything else? And so that was a really major design choice for us, to remove that Kafkaesque system of incoming messages and to move everything into statelessness and be able to buffer data, incoming data, and not drop it. And how do we manage retry mechanism and all of that? That was really interesting how we architected all of that and how we're leveraging S3 actually as a queuing mechanism at some point that allows us to scale this way. But yes, for us, really building a system that allows us to scale up and down was critical. And really the design of Hydrolix was, let's make sure that there's no dependency on other systems, that we can completely have autonomous system that can scale up, that can also send messages to others saying, I need to have more capacity. That was part of a lot of effort on our side. Typically, Kubernetes is really good at auto-scaling based on memory usage and CPU usage. But for us, it's not enough. At some point, we want to auto-scale based on the queue depth that we have of incoming messages, for example. And so we started building a custom auto-scaler as part of our platform to allow us to scale the different components with different metrics that are not part of the standard Kubernetes services. And so we now have the ability to scale based on other metrics that are completely irrelevant for most of the people.
David, as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built, with Hydrolix in particular, what are you most proud of?
Really, the ability to manage a terabyte a minute of log data. That's what we did with Fox for the Super Bowl. We literally took a terabyte a minute of log and were able to query and respond in real time for them and give them visibility in real time into everything that's going on at the edge. For me, that was it was a make it or break it day. But yet, the fact that we supported that kind of event is completely insane and massive. Probably the proudest day we've had in the company.
Okay, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
So to go back to the first Super Bowl, that actually was not great. We dropped a lot of data on that day. The big mistake that we made was, again, to trust a stateful services and its capacity to ingest more than it could, basically. And so there was this bit. The other part, which is we were really good at known data sources at Hydrolix. How do you ingest data that is completely unknown, where you need to build a schema, is a different story. And it's really difficult. And so there's a lot of things that we put effort in that really didn't pan out necessarily. One of those efforts was building a partnership with the big cloud vendors, we thought that like we would be able to build a really good logging platform for them. But at the same time, they already had everything that they needed. They didn't really see the need of our solution. And so we spent a lot of time trying to build bridges and connectors for them. But at the same time, it didn't really pan out. And so how do you pivot from building a really good ecosystem for a specific vendors into, okay, this vendor is actually all set. They don't necessarily need to work with us. What is the next partner that you want to work with? And how soon do you realize that this is not panning out? Because always it's a struggle. Like when you're working with a major cloud vendor, you know that it's going to take a year maybe to build a proper relationship and to build a proper product for them. But after a year and it's still not working, what do? Do you think it's a mistake because it's actually a product issue? Do you think it's a relationship issue? It's very hard to figure out why it's a failure, actually. You think you're solving problem, but at the same time, nobody is buying it. So why is nobody purchasing the product? Is it because it's impossible to find in the marketplace? Is it because it's not usable? Is it because the purchase workflow is too difficult? Is it the onboarding? Like, it's very hard to figure out what's not working when you don't have a lot of feedback. That I think is the tricky part. Like, how do you get really good feedback from customers, or not even customer, but from prospect? Is critical to figure out why it's not working, why it's failing, and what kind of KPI you need to keep on. Those are hard things to solve. The real question is like, when do you switch? Like, when do you say, okay, this is not working? What is the real signal that's telling you that this is actually not working and you need to switch to something else? It's very difficult because it's also emotional. You've put 6 months of effort building something and it's not working out. And you can't know why it's not working out because you don't get feedback. But at the same time, you spend already 6 months on it. When do you switch off? When do you say, okay, enough is enough. Let's bin this one and move to something else. It's a hard decision.
Let's move forward then. This will be exciting. Given what you've built thus far, and it's serving so much. What does the future look like for Hydrolix, for the company, the product, and for your team?
There's a lot of things that we're looking into. The main one is really diversification, because as I mentioned, like, we're really well known in the media industry. We are working with pretty much all the broadcasters in the world, but it's a very large ecosystem. But at the same time, it's a small market, right? And so extending our product into other area like security, like, I think that's a major challenge for us, but that's also very exciting. Because if you think about it, like, security practitioners, they want to keep the data for a long time. They want to be able to query that data. When there is a security incident, the first question that you ask is, when did that happen? When did it start? And if you're dropping the data on the floor because it's too expensive to keep, then you're losing visibility. And so for us, one of the most exciting development that we're working on is really, how do we integrate better with security vendor? How do we integrate with agent and security agents, EDR, and solution like that can push data into Hydrolix that people can then use to solve problems? So that's one area which is quite exciting. The second, which is, I think everyone is excited about, is AI. Because funnily enough, like, people don't like to write SQL statement. I don't understand why. They rather ask a question about data. And so for us, having an interface which is like an NLP based, which is a conversation with an agent that generates a chart, generates the output for you, is really incredible. And the evolution of really model is incredible, how fast it's evolving. I think that's going to change really the industry completely, because that's going to open up data science to everyone at the end of the day. Like right now, if you have question, you need to ask it to an engineer that's going to write the SQL statement, generate the dashboard for you, etc., and then you can use it. But imagine anybody can ask question about their own data directly in English. That's quite brilliant. So,
okay, David, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to, and why.
I'm gonna go with our founder, Marty Kagan, the founder of Hydrolix. It was quite funny. When I started in the company, I wanted everything to be perfect. And Marty was like, if you wait for it to be perfect, you'll never ship anything. And for me, it was really hard because I was like, yeah, but I'm putting so much effort. I need it to be perfect. But at the same time, nothing is ever perfect. And so he really taught me that, okay, we're going to ship fast and iterate quickly. And that's really the vision that I have. It's like, nothing is ever perfect, but the only way to get something perfect is really to get feedback and iterate really quickly. And so to me, that was like an eye-opener, the way I completely changed the way I work, to be able to build a prototype, build something really quickly, ship it, and see how people react to it. I think it is quite interesting.
David, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. And can we show it off to you right there on the plane? What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit with Hydrolix?
First of all, show me what you have. I'm always interested. I'm always curious. The second bit is, who did you build it for? What is your market? Because at the end of the day, everyone has great ideas, right? But a great idea does not necessarily translate to a market need. And so the first question I would ask him is, what market research did you do? Are you sure you're actually fulfilling a need for your customer? What is your customer? Did you talk to a customer before building it? Because I think that is the most critical bit. We're not here to build technology for the sake of technology. We're here to solve problem, right? And so the first question you need to ask yourself, what is the problem you're solving? Is it a real problem? Is it a problem that's massive enough that you're going to be successful because there's enough people that have that problem that are going to buy your solution? That's really the question I would ask him. And then I would tell him, are you willing to put the hours? Because it is a rough patch. You have ups and downs. We always joke about it internally. It's a roller coaster, a startup. You have days where everything's working beautifully and you're you're in the clouds, right? And then the next day you find a major bug and you're like, oh man, is it even a viable product? And so you have to be ready for the roller coaster of life that it is.
Couldn't agree more. That's fantastic advice. Well, David, thanks for being on the show today. Thanks for telling the creation story of Hydrolix.
Thanks for having me.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
If you're early in your career and looking for insight, inspiration, and honest advice, listen to the Capital Ideas podcast. Hear from Capital Group professionals about leaning into the differences that make you unique, making decisions that last, and what it means to lead with purpose. The Capital Ideas podcast from Capital Group, available wherever you listen. Published by Capital Client Group, Inc.
One of the biggest challenges of earning a degree as a military veteran is transitioning your goals and experiences to your next phase in life. National University gets it. As a veteran-founded Yellow Ribbon School, they offer post-9/11 GI Bill acceptance, dedicated military support and advising services, and credit for your military experience. That's why 30% of their students are military affiliated. NU, education that serves those who served.